My psycho ex moved in with my parents after our breakup because they needed us to get back together, but I wouldn't get back with that coward even if I was paid to. At the start of this year, I, 29 feet, was stalked and harassed by a woman who believed I was having an affair with her husband. For over a month, I experienced daily harassment through phone calls, on social media, and even in public. She threw a stone through my window and vandalized my car in my driveway. Thankfully, she was caught on security camera, and charges were brought against her. I had to spend a lot on lawyers to threaten legal action against both the husband and wife to get her to back off. She was going through some sort of mental breakdown and ended up in a psychiatric hold. Her medications helped, and she eventually agreed to stop and accepted that I wasn't the involved party. As part of our legal agreement, she made social media posts apologizing and clearing my name, along with providing some financial recompense for the damages caused. During all this, my fiancé, 32 meters, was of no help at all. We lived together, but he wouldn't do anything to support me. When I was accosted in public places, he'd simply leave. When our condo was attacked, he got in his car and left to stay with a friend, saying it was too embarrassing for him to stay around. He didn't seem to realize that I was scared and felt my life was in danger. Even though he knew I was innocent, he didn't stop his friends and family from believing the worst about me and making snide comments. I begged him to help me, but he'd act frustrated as if there was nothing he could do. When the woman harassing me made the apology posts, I forwarded them everywhere, explaining how I got caught up in someone else's tragedy, and I called my fiancé a coward for his behavior. This was also my way of publicly breaking up with him. My parents were very supportive of me throughout this ordeal and even gave me money for the lawyer's retainer. However, they didn't like my public FU to my ex. They said it was petty of me and asked me to be nicer and not break up. I eventually removed his name from my posts, but I was not interested in any relationship with him anymore. After all this, I was still pretty traumatized and paranoid. I quit my job, and I couldn't stand living with my ex. My best friend lived a few states away, and she invited me to stay with her for a change of scenery. It was the break I needed. I also found a great job while visiting and decided to settle there. I've been living in this town since then. I have booked tickets to visit my family for Christmas, and last night, my mother told me that my ex is staying with them as a house guest. My mother said he wasn't doing too well after I left, and my parents let him move in with them. I don't want to see my ex, and I am pretty hurt that my parents are taking care of this man who did not stand by me. Would I be the bad person if I tell my parents I am not visiting as long as he's in their home? What would you do in this situation? Update. I didn't go home for Christmas. I called my parents and told them I wasn't coming, which set off a lot of recrimination and arguing. My mom got upset at me for my coldness, and my dad reprimanded me for breaking mom's heart. Mom is trying to get me back together with my ex, and dad goes along with whatever mom wants. I asked them why they'd want me to be with someone who didn't protect me. Mom said that if the stalker was a man, he would have protected me, but since it was just a woman from a good home, there wasn't any real danger. This was news to me because when it was happening, they were both worried about my safety, but now they are downplaying it. This is the exact argument my ex had used, and they are buying into his story. Then Mom goes on about how this was embarrassing for my ex and says I wronged him by putting him in this situation. This brought up a long history of Mom's disappointment in me. I was never what she wanted me to be. I know she loves me and had thought our differences were the typical mother-daughter conflict that everyone has, but Mom has fears that run deeper than that. She is a slim, svelte, and pretty woman who is very particular about manners and appearances. I got my build from my dad's side of the family. I am very curvy with large breasts. My weight and figure have been a cause for concern for my mom, who'd pressure me to cover up and downplay it. She wanted me to go into teaching or medicine, but I didn't do well enough in school for that. I ended up forming a career in sales, and I am very good at it. I was making good money at a large corporation, and while I dressed modestly, I was no longer wearing baggy clothes, but professional suits with a good fit. The fact that I look like I do and work in sales was scandalous to my mother. The guy whose affair caused problems in my life is a manager in the same company I used to work for. We worked on the same floor in different departments. I think he let me take the fall because knowing who he was having the affair with would have put his job in jeopardy and would have been much more scandalous. My mother thinks the wife blaming me was inevitable because I have the look. She thinks her fears about my appearance and career were validated by this incident. She is horrified that instead of learning from my mistakes, I now have a job as a client relationship manager, even though it is at a financial firm. She feels pressured to force me to come home, get married, and leave my career behind. I'm so sad about how all this has turned out. My relationship ended, and now I am losing my parents. Meanwhile, that cheating man and his unstable wife are still married, and he still has the same job. Not the happy ending you may have hoped for, but I guess they're not for everyone. Relevant comments. I'm so sorry. Coming from a woman with a similar look to what you are describing, I feel some type of way personally of your mom blaming your body for being harassed and stalked for a year. Do not think of this as losing. Everyone in this story, from your ex-partner to your parents, are revealing themselves to be people who are unable to be there for you when the chips are down. People who wish to push away discomfort at their failures to act and support when you need it the most. You have gained insight into them. Never forget it. Response. Thank you for saying that. I'm having a hard time accepting this about my parents. They supported me through my difficult times and they think they are still trying to protect me. They don't see that I'd be happier if they just let me be. This was the first time I was all alone on Christmas. My best friend is the only person I really know here and her family flew out to be with her in-laws. I'm trying to tell myself it'll be okay, but I am feeling so lonely and depressed.